Good
Good morning.
morning.
Oh, sorry, Mayor.
Oh,
Good
I
morning.
apologize.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is Lauren Sagayan. I am assistant to the city manager. I am your MC and co-moderator of today's Black History Month community panel. I just wanted to welcome everybody, and I'm actually going to be turning it over to the mayor to give an official welcome to everybody in attendance and to our panelists. Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, I apologize. I jumped the gun. I'm just so anxious for this event. So in any case, good morning and welcome and thank you for joining us today. As was mentioned, I'm Union City Mayor Carol Dutra-Bernacci. In recognition of Black History Month, I am proud that Union City is stepping up and doing more than our normal proclamation or presentation at our city council meeting. This is the first time we are hosting a meaningful panel discussion. Today's topic is the Black family and their lived experiences. I want to thank our panelists. We have with us today Daryl the Guru Johnson, Reverend Jerome Brown, Derrick Richardson, Amir Johnson, and Manny Allen. And by the way, Manny Allen is our Race and Equity Chair of our New Haven Unified School District Teachers Association. They have all agreed to share their experiences and insights. For the panelists, I appreciate you so much. Your participation is so valuable and deeply appreciated. You will be more fully introduced in a little while. Before I go on, I would like to recognize elected officials that I see in attendance in our audience. I see with us is our Vice Mayor Pat Gakoskos, Council Member Emily Duncan, and I do know that my good buddy, East Palo Alto Council Member Lisa Gaucher is out there as well. As I said in our press release, Union City prides itself on preserving its family-oriented and culturally rich community. Therefore, as this distinguished panel dives into today's topics, we're going to listen and learn because, as I like to say, we don't know what we don't know. We look forward to this honest discussion generating ideas and solutions about how we can better support and lift up our Black community. We will be extending today's conversation into action. The City Council will follow up by directing our Human Relations Commission to assess today's insights and come back to the Council with actionable steps so we can better serve our Black community. We also have several staff members watching today, so they can take lessons learned back to their jobs. I will now turn the comments over to our Human Relations Commission Chair, Kashmir Singh Shahi. Kashmir, you're up.
Hey, Kashmir, can you unmute yourself?
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome and good morning. My name is Kashmir Singh Shahi. I'm speaking on behalf of Human Relations Commission, City of Union City. I'm very pleased to be invited to speak here today, and it is an honor to join all of you in recognizing Black History Month. This morning, our panelists will discuss topics relevant to our Black citizens of Union City. What we would like to do this year is to bring people together in the spirit of open communication and rethink our approaches to the problems we face and begin to build stronger partnership to solve them. This is an extraordinary time to step back and recognize the many great gifts Black people have brought to our nation. Civil rights activists, lawyers, poets, playwrights, actors, and politicians who through their struggle and triumph, have broken down barriers and help us all pull together as a nation to seek justice. In Sikhism, there is a writing, Manas ki jaat sab hai ek hai pehchan wo, meaning recognize human race as one. But the reality is that even in today's world, one has to prove that they are as valuable as their neighbor is. That's sad. Unless we are willing to confront injustice wherever it occurs, the progress we have earned will be lost. I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful that one day we will all flourish and collaborate as human Keeping our ethical values intact, we should always seek harmony and put our bigotry aside to make this country even greater. I would like to leave you with the quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which says, "Darkness cannot drive out of darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Let's all work to be the light that drives out of darkness. Let's raise up to the make greater strides for a better future where no one should has to live in a fear for their skin color, ethnicity, race, or a gender." Thank you and enjoy the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Kashmir, and thank you, Mayor Carroll. I want to actually introduce City Manager Joan Malloy, who's going to give a couple comments before we break into the panel discussion.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. As City Manager of Union City, I want to welcome the panel, and I'm really pleased that we can offer this forum to hear a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue. We'll all be taking notes and hopefully see this work into actionable steps that we can take as a city. So I, again, am very pleased to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Great. And before I turn it over to my co-moderator, Jacques Whitfield, I wanted to introduce everybody to Emma Tozer. She is also helping us to moderate this conversation. Emma helped me organize this event over the last month and promote it. So thank you, Emma. And Emma will actually be paying attention to all of the feedback and questions that come in through the chat function if you're on our teleconferencing application, or if you're watching us on Facebook Live, Emma will be monitoring the comments. So she will be jumping in when there is a good question to share with our panelists. So thanks, Emma, in advance. And then before I turn it over to Jacques Whitfield for his own introduction, I wanted to let everybody here know how you can participate in today's event. We encourage your participation. If you're logged on through the Blue Jeans teleconferencing application, there is a chat feature. So we encourage you to share your comments or questions with us there. And if we can work in your questions, we will certainly do that. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live today, please feel free to leave a question or comment in the comment section of the post of the live feed, and we'll try to work in your questions that way too. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my co-moderator, Jacques Whitfield. And Jacques, can you please let everybody know who you are?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, everyone. This is just so excited. I'm like the mayor. I'm like so excited, ready to get started. So first of all, good morning to you all. For those of you who are joining us in different time zones by virtue of the World Wide Web, good afternoon. My name is Jacques Whitfield, and I like to think of myself as a self-appointed cheerleader and goodwill ambassador for the city of Union City. I happen to be an HR consultant with a state agency, CPS HR, Cooperative Personnel Services HR. We provide operational and strategic support to all governmental agencies, not just in California, but throughout the country. And I am proud that CPS HR is a proud partner with the city of Union City. I have been in the HR management space for over 20 years. And so I get to work with cities like Union City who are doing some really amazing work. We have a dynamic panel for our discussion this morning, and very shortly we're going to allow them to introduce themselves. And just as a grounding thought, Dr. Maya Angelou said, "We are more alike than we are unalike." And it is our collective hope that this conversation about which we're about to enter will really be illustrative of that fact. This is an opportunity to create bridges, to create connections, using the vehicle of Black History Month. We are going to demonstrate through various topics: education, the Black family, economic empowerment, youth, law enforcement, that what's good for the Black community is good for all communities of color, is good for everyone. And we're really excited about what we have for you today. So the amazing individuals who are going to be leading this discussion are our distinguished panelists, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. And we'll start first with Manny Allen. If you could please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Manny Allen, and I am currently a teacher at James Logan High School. I teach in the Ethnic Studies Department, teaching Ethnic Women's Studies, African American Issues, and African American History. I also teach a 9th grade class of Black 9th grade girls. I was born and raised in Union City. This is pretty much all I've known. My mom moved here in the 70s, and she also was a teacher at James Logan High School for 44 years. I taught at Alvarado Elementary as a special ed teacher, working with students with autism for 20 years. And then once my mom retired, she kind of blackmailed me into going to Logan because she wouldn't retire until I took her place over at Logan. So that is why I'm at Logan, and following in her footsteps. Union City it's my heart. It's where everything, I went through everything here. This is where I learned things. This is where I was just, it's Union City. It's like nobody knows where Union City is, but it's my heart. So I am here to represent not only my teachers union, the New Haven Teachers Association, but I'm also here to represent students. And that's why I followed my mom into teaching, because she always told me how important student voice is. And I have hopefully continued her legendary self. To me, she is a guru. So thank you.
Manny, thank you so much we're so glad to have you. Your story absolutely resonated with me. My first job ever was middle school teacher. And I also followed my mother, who was a distinguished public school teacher. So public school teachers rock to me. So glad to have you here. Next, I would love for Amir Johnson, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourselves to the panel and to our audience.
Good morning, everyone. I am Amir Johnson. I'm a diagnostic imaging physicist with Kaiser Permanente. In that realm, I sort of bring a voice from the healthcare industry, from the science industry, to this discussion. I'm also a parent to 3 kids, one college junior, one high school junior at Logan, and one 8th grader at Itliong Veracruz Middle School. So very happy to be here to represent that voice as well. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I moved to Union City in 2016, and happy to have made my home here.
Thank you so much, Amir, for that beautiful introduction. I know that one of Kaiser's themes is Thrive, so we're certainly looking forward to having your unique and interesting perspective. As a mother of 3, I can certainly resonate with you. I actually have 4 children, but I know what that's like, and we are looking forward to your meaningful insight. So thank you so much for being with us. Next, Derrick Richardson, if you could be so kind as to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Derrick Richardson. I am my wife and I are 16-year residents of Union City. We're raising 2 teenage sons here. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a product of New York City public schools. Also the son of immigrants from the Caribbean. My educational and professional background is in mechanical engineering. I've worked for a little over 25 years in the medical device and pharmaceutical research and development realm. I also got a little bit of a taste of city government and local politics through serving as the chair of the Union City Human Relations Commission for 3 years, from 2016 to 2019. And that was really interesting. That experience just taught me a lot about how the city works, what goes on behind the scenes, how decisions are made, who makes decisions. also gave me a lot of insight into the root causes of some of the city's most pressing problems. And I look forward to giving my perspective on that today. Just a thought about Black History Month. I have a special appreciation for Black history through the lens of, a lot of advances in science and engineering that have come from Black people in this nation, all while we have been constantly oppressed and marginalized. Some of the things that we have done over the last 401 years have been absolutely amazing. So technology and innovation are often not connected to the Black community, and I work really hard to turn that on its head. Our achievements in those areas in particular are a source of internal motivation for me, and they keep me going. So my comments definitely will be sort of from that perspective today, and I'm looking forward to participating in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Derrick, my fellow New Yorker. I'm from across town. You're Brooklyn. I was born in Queens, Jamaica. My mom was born in Queens. Dad was born in Harlem. So glad to have a fellow New Yorker on the panel to be sharing those unique perspectives. And next, if we would go to Pastor Jerome Pastor Jerome Brown, if you could be so kind as to introduce yourself. Pastor Brown.
First of all, good morning to the city of Union City. I'm happy to be a part of a panel. I consider myself on the panel to be the OG. I think I lived in Union City the longest out of anybody that's on this panel. My family moved to Union City in 1969. So I go way back. I think we were either the second or third Black family to move in to Union City. And I have fell in love with the city. I have become active in the city. I went to Logan. We were talking earlier. I graduated in the 70s. My kids went to Logan. They all three have graduated. I have 2 grandkids at Cesar Chavez, and then I have 2 at Cyril's. So I have been a part of the African American community in Union City for many years. I'm presently the senior pastor here at Brown Temple Community Church. I also serve as fire chaplain for Alameda County, which I started being the first chaplain for the city of Union City. And I have served also on the HRC. I think I served from 95 to 2000. And that was a great experience. And Black history is very important to me, not only in a natural sense, but even local, just the impact that the African American community have had here in Union City, seeing the panel here and different ones. And I take this time out to just reflect and give some recognitions of what the African American community has accomplished and what are we going to do. I'm representing the faith base. I'm really interested in getting into this discussion on this panel, and I appreciate it. We want to have some real talk, and that's the only way things are going to be resolved. We have to come to the table and have real talk. So, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor, and we definitely are going to have some real talk, and I appreciate not only you being the most seasoned and senior member of the panel, but the unique perspectives that you bring. And as a PK, my brother's a pastor, my mother's also in ministry. I am personally delighted to have your presence here. So thank you so much, sir. And last but not least, Daryl the Guru Johnson. Daryl, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Daryl the Guru Johnson. I was born and raised in Union City, California. I'm the son of Norman and Daisy Johnson, who moved to Union City in 1976. So I went to James Logan High School. I graduated, and I just think about my journey, and I'm like the pastor. I love Union City. I feel like I am Union City, with all my imperfections. And Union City has been good not only to me, but my family. And it's interesting, I look back on my time in Union City, and my experiences. And with social media here lately, especially, I have friends, from all walks of life that had grew up in Union City as well. And we'll be on certain threads having certain discussions. And I've been so blessed to have basically had no problems in Union City as a young adolescent, but some others have. And when I sat back, late in the evening, reading posts, basically feelings from others, and I'm saying there's no way in the world that happened to you in my city, but their truth is my truth. And all I can do is respect and sit back and reflect like, you know what, Daryl? Talking to myself like, okay, Union City has been great. You love it. But these experiences happen to your friends or family members that I never in a million years would have thought had happened. And that's why when I got this opportunity for this invite, basically what I want to do, my dad, Norman Johnson, my mother has passed, rest her beautiful soul. He's still in Union City. I visit him all the time. I take rides with my children, sometimes by myself, around Union City. My youngest son is a senior in high school. He goes to Logan. I got to go to the basketball games 30 years later after I graduated to look around and almost come to tears of joy reflecting on being back where it all started. But I want to get to know my city again because, again, back to those threads and those experiences that may not have been the best, there's some history in my city that, I want to help now and help other, young Black men or women or any minority that are coming up through Union City, how we can fix some of the challenges that I thought didn't even exist. That's why when Lauren reached out to me and I could be a part of this panel, I hope that can come up in this discussion and how I can help and do what I can to help these youngsters coming up in Union City. So that's why I'm pleased to be here.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate the passion of the entire panel. So, folks, as you can see, this is going to be a very, very engaging panel discussion. So let's jump right in. The first question I'd like to ask relates to relevance. Daryl, something that you said that's important that I want to offer into the space. And that is the question of how do we get to hold multiple and competing truths? There are several lived experiences of not only of ourselves, but of our colleagues, of our fellow citizens. And this panel discussion is really to talk about how do we create space so that we introduce into the body politic and introduce into the conversation, how do we hold all of these multiple and competing truths? And we'll start with relevance. We've heard, is the study of Black history important? Is it a unifying tool? Is it a divisive tool? But my question to you is, could you please, each of you, discuss the importance and relevance of celebrating Black History Month in the 21st century? So really looking at what is the importance, what is the relevance of discussing celebrating Black History Month and celebrating it today in the 21st century? And why don't we have Amir, if you would be so kind as to kick us off with this discussion? Would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. Again, we like all the panelists to participate, but we'll start with you, please.
Sure. I think that the first thing is that all history is important to understand and to celebrate because events are cyclical. People repeat history. We can look at the current pandemic. We were warned, hey, the COVID-19 curve, we want to flatten it, but we don't want it to look like the 1919 flu pandemic. And guess what? Our curve looks exactly the same. So I think it's important for everyone to understand history, understand why things happen, how our individual actions contribute to things happening, And for Black history, that's largely been erased in this country. And so we're doomed to repeat atrocities against Black people. We're doomed to perpetuate inequities if we don't understand that history, understand how current events and past events contribute to that history, and understand how Black people have been a part of the community. We're doomed to just continue inequities if we don't understand that and celebrate it.
Thank you. Daryl, same question. What is the importance and relevance of celebrating Black history in the 21st century? Your thoughts, sir.
It's very important, and it's more important now than it's ever been. And again, when I hear the word or term Black History Month, you know, back coming up as a youngster, it was something that wasn't in my textbook in schools, and it wasn't a mandate. And I'm appreciative of all the great Black men and women that have contributed to this country, some stories that have gone untold. So I don't want to come off as unappreciative, but it just bothers me that there's so much rich history in the Black community, and yet it only gets 28 days. And we can all look ourselves in the mirror and ask questions on why it's just, you know, that short, because something so great and rich to me can't be told in just a short period of time. So again, with your help and the help of others, the community, you know, I'm trying to get to a position to where it's a mandate and it's taught. Black history is taught like the others, you know, history was taught to me coming up. And with the things that have gone on in 2020 and 2021, which is just getting started, you know, I just cannot, when I try to educate my kids on this rich culture of Black history, I'm having a problem processing why it's just a month. But again, it's very important because we've done so much and the story needs to be told and we need to start somewhere. But I'm looking at the bigger picture, like how do we get this into the, you know, the local school system to where it's a mandate and it's not just a month. It's something that, you know, other races, you know, learn about like I did other cultures growing up.
Thank you, sir. Derrick, your thoughts on the importance and relevance of celebrating Black history?
Yeah, it's very simple to me. Black history is American history. Black people built America, full stop. Unpaid slave labor was really the economic engine that created the generational wealth for white Americans and made America a global superpower. When you walk down the street, the conditions that you walk through today were created by Black people. So this is highly relevant today and every day for the last 400 plus years. You know, I think you have to understand the true origins of Black people and the contributions that we have made to this nation are intentionally suppressed by what I consider to be the American caste system. For the most part, American school systems do not have the courage to teach children the truth about American slavery. Black college students have to fight for the Black experience to be reflected in their curriculums as an alternative to Eurocentric Western culture courses, which are the norm, right? So we don't recognize that. We just choose as a nation to not recognize that the Black experience is tightly woven into the fabric of this nation. It is an immutable truth. So suppression and exclusion of Black contributions from my vantage point is absolutely intentional. It's baked into the institutions of this country. So Black history is relevant 365 days of the year. And I'll finish the way I started. Black history is American history. That is why it is relevant.
Powerful snaps right there. That is, I mean, all of you have each positively contributed, but those were some powerful nuggets. I did not overlook the fact that you mentioned caste. So you probably read Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste. Very, very powerful. If you haven't, I strongly encourage all of you to read it. It is certainly, there you go. See, I knew we were on the same wavelength. I told you this was going to be exciting.
I said cast intentionally because this book, please read it. If you're on this call, please read it. It's Isabel Wilkerson. Powerful.
No, absolutely. In fact, the book fundamentally changed. I teach diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the book completely and radically changed how I present my material. Powerful. Manny, from the educator perspective, we're waiting. Your thoughts and impressions on the relevance and importance of Black history in the 21st century.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Black history is I was very fortunate to have the mother that I have, because she taught me and my siblings from a very young age how important we are here in America. And something that I've noticed is, from the academic point of view, at least in public schools, is that Black history is about slavery. And then from slavery, they jump to Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, and then it ends. And that's all kids are learning about as I speak to my own students. And they're really surprised when I start our lessons in Africa, because I tell them our history does not start here in the US. It starts in Africa. We were people in Africa. We were doctors. We were teachers. We were everything that you can think of. We were that. And so trying to change the narrative. And to me, that's what Black history is changing the narrative of what these kids are learning at a younger age. It's very important. We as Black people are so important to not even just US, but world. Black history is world history. And that's why it's important, because there's so much that wouldn't have happened if we weren't here. And so I'm very, 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 very passionate about it, very passionate about Black history. And it's what does sadden me real quickly. What saddens me is when I get students in my class who aren't Black. Well, I mean, the Black kids, they don't know their history, but other ethnic backgrounds don't know our history. And so they have these assumptions about who we are. And those assumptions guide them to treat us certain ways. And it's not just students, it's also teachers, it's adults. They have these assumptions about who we are because of what they think they know. And so Black history it's about learning who we are without the assumptions and the stereotypes and the bias and all of that. And for me, as Mr. Richardson said, Black history is every day. So we're going to learn something Black every day. We are not just happy Black History Month, but that's not what I'm not focusing on that. So yes, that's where I'm coming from.
So snaps again. Thank you for educating us. There are a couple of follow-up questions in there, but I want to hear from Pastor Brown because I think he's going to take us to church. And then there are a couple of follow-up questions before we move on to the next segment. So Pastor, your thoughts, your impressions on the importance and relevance of Black history in the 21st century.
I'm not going to take you to church because I'm not on my organ. But anyway, from my perspective, I think it's just part of our society, suppression, that's huge. And that's pretty much why a lot of us, we're not educated in there. Education is very important. And I want to come to it from a perspective, we all know, we have Black History Month and have Black history programs in the church. We learn a little bit about it, but we have to do more. We have to do way more. Somehow we have to bridge the gap. And I respect everything that everybody is coming to days of the month. I agree with Manny and Derrick. It's not about how many days of the month. It's what we do. It's how we get out and educate, where the faith base have to come together with the community, with the school and all that. And we have to get it together to where we can educate our young Black people on Black history. It just seems like we wait till February and then that's when we want to talk about it. But we got to talk about it. I like the commercial. Steph Curry. I don't know if you guys seen the commercial. He says Black History Month is every month. And this is what we have to do, even as a community. We have to start. You know, I wish I can fix the whole world, but I don't think I can fix the whole world. But I can make a difference and make a change here in Union City, you know, with the dialogue. I'm listening to what Manny is saying. I listened to what you said, Guru and Derrick. But somehow we have to come together as leaders, see, from different walks of life, put the dialogue down. And then that way we can teach and we can talk on it and we can keep it alive. Your fire is only going to be as bright as your flame. So I'm just going to be honest with us, you know, because I'm tired of talking. We done talked enough and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. Come on, it's time for action. See? So we got to lay down the ground law. Union City, we could be the front runners. We can do that. One thing I like Union City, we're a diverse city, you know, but the Black family is important. I'll just keep it recent. This vaccine, who created it? It was a Black woman. Come on. We do things, see, but it just seems like we go up, they try to knock us down. You know, that's just what it is. But if I'm gonna take you to church, we got to keep on pushing. Come on, we got to hang in there.
Amen.
We got to hold on, and we got to hold each other's up. And I want to give a plug to all the young Black men that's out there. There's a church here in Union City, New Covenant Church, every other Saturday. Pastor Ken Baker is the pastor. He has a session where he get young African American men. You don't have to be from Union City. Bible said, whosoever will, let them come. But we sit and we have real talk about the craziness that's going on in this world, about a fear of being a Black man. See? And all these discussions are very important, not just in February is basically what I'm trying to say. You know, we got to keep this year round, ongoing and ongoing. And then when we start there and get a strong foundation, your building is only going to be as strong as your foundation. In Union City, this is what we have to do. From the education from New Haven School District, from Union City City Council to the faith base, Brown Temple, New Hope Baptist, Bethel Baptist, Tri-City AME Church. We have to come together and come together to educate. That's important, the education of our young Black men and women. And not only that, but to encourage, uplift. We need it. Man, I know a lot of young Black African men, they're walking scared around here. I'm going off. Let me stop.
I appreciate that. Thank you and you did take us to church, Pastor, and thank you for that. And I do want to move to educational opportunities, but I think I would like for us to have as a follow-up, and this is really weaving the thread that all of you have created. I think there's a really powerful follow-up that we get to have a family discussion, and we get to have it virtually and transparently in the presence of our community. But it's something that all of you said that really resonated with me. And it's, yes, that Black history is American history. Yes, that Black history is more than just a month. It is 365. Yes, but something that each of you intimated, actually, Manny, you said it very powerfully. Pastor, you also picked up on that. And the theme of real talk, because Pastor, you said we get to talk real talk. So family conversation, folks, why don't we, meaning African Americans, know our history like we should know our history? And again, because this is a follow-up question from the initial discussion, I will allow anyone who has a thought or idea about that, please unmute yourselves and share your thoughts and impressions, because it is a fact that not enough of our youth understand, appreciate, and acknowledge the contribution of African Americans. And before we can ask the general community to acknowledge us, we get to acknowledge ourselves. But where's that gap? What's going on there? I would love to hear your feedback. Anybody?
Personally, I feel like part of the issue is kids are embarrassed. Our Black kids are put in situations where, at least in Union City, many times they are the only in the class. And when they are the only in the class and we get to Black History Month and these kids are sitting there, because so many stories have come through where kids are like, Black history happens, and then my teacher starts talking about slavery, and then everybody in the room turns and looks at me. And I think that kids, they build a wall. They're building a wall because it's like, my history, who I am, started with slavery. Slavery is bad, so that makes me bad. And when parents don't necessarily know that this is going on in classrooms, they don't know to undo what their kids are hearing. Because yes, slavery is a part of us, but it's not the most important part of us. And like I keep going to, I was fortunate that my mom was like a professor of African American history and African history. And she was able to bring to us what we needed to understand. So when we talked about slavery, we could hold our heads up high. But I at least in my opinion, schools they're damaging our Black kids. And honestly, New Haven is one of those schools. New Haven Unified. We are part of the problem. And it also goes to teachers don't know what they don't know. And because they don't know what they don't know, they're teaching things the way they were taught when they went to college. And that's a problem. That's a big problem.
Thank you, Manny, for sharing that. I remember you made me remember my education, my home education with my mother and my grandmother. We had flashcards of, important facts and Black history. And Shirley Chisholm was a friend of my grandmother's. And I remember when she ran for president and I went to school with the Shirley Chisholm button, I actually got detention for being a communist because my teacher at the time said that no woman could be president, especially not a woman of color. Actually, she said colored woman because I was in the South, but, so again, but no, that what you said really resonated with me. I'm curious for some of the other panelists, family conversation, why don't we know more about our history?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I can comment on that. This is Derrick. I think you just go back to the origins of this country. Miss Allen brought it up. There was an intentional, systematic stripping of our identity when we were brought here. She said that, we come from a rich culture and a rich heritage in Africa. And that was intentionally, we were deprogrammed, right? As a means of creating menial, slave labor and compliant labor, right? That wouldn't fight back. So we have to understand that over the last 400 years, that has been baked into all of our systems. Right, and we've been reprogrammed to think that we are less than we are. So if you educate yourself and you read books like Stand from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, you'll know that America didn't create racism. We perfected it. It existed long before anybody came to these shores, and we took this nation away from the natives. If you read Isabel Wilkerson's Caste. A book called Caste, you'll know that we did such a good job of oppressing African Americans that Hitler and the Nazis consulted with us to understand what our systems were and to try to implement some of the things that Americans were doing to Black people. And some of the things that they found, they were like, y'all doing that? Oh, that's too much. That's too harsh. We don't want to go that far, right? So it's intentional and it is persistent, and we have to take the initiative to educate ourselves. My wife and I recognize the deficiencies in the education that our kids get in school. We supplement that. We actively supplement that with making sure kids understand their history and where they come from and who they really are. So that's really the problem. It's intentional.
Thank you.
I think this is Amir.
I felt your
totally
energy.
agree.
It was like the force, Amir. I knew that there was something powerful about to come. So you have the floor, Queen.
Thank you. I was going to say it goes beyond, I wanted to piggyback on what Manny said. Not only are our students embarrassed, but our teachers are embarrassed. We have teachers in, in New Haven Unified who don't know how to talk about Black history, who don't want to admit to themselves that they're a part of this system that keeps oppressing Black people. And if they can't admit that to themselves, then how can they sit in front of a classroom full of students and talk to them about it? So I am also a parent. I supplement my children's education around Black history and Black issues, but I still know that, it's inadequate when they are out in this world being educated by, their array of teachers, by other community members, by their peers. And just this week, I've dealt with, and actually this year, this entire school year, with all of the very high profile Black sort of issues that have come up. It's been a tough year to be a parent, to be a Black parent. I've talked to my kids and it's been tough. And also as a parent, it's tough for me to find the balance between giving my kids, the wings that they need to fly, and telling them about, the reality of this country. So how much of, America's oppressive tactics against Black people do I lay on my teenage boys when I'm also trying to make sure they're superstars, right? So the problem with us knowing our history is so multifaceted. It's just, and it might not always be knowing. Sometimes it's just we don't want to talk about it.
Thank you for that share.
I was going to
Yes,
jump
Lauren.
to Amir and Manny and Derrick, who mentioned supplemental education.
Jump right on in.
What would you tell those who are not Black, but that want to be able to provide supplemental education to their kids, so that they can better understand, when I'm thinking about Manny, when they're in the classroom with Black kids, and to kind of make them more aware of these situations? What would be the advice you would give to our audience? And Manny, you're muted.
Sorry, Miss Allen, did you want to comment?
Go ahead, Mr. Richardson. You go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. It sounds a lot like, this summer, I had a lot of white colleagues asking me, well, how do I be a good ally? What do I do, right? And they're thinking that I can educate them in 30 minutes on Zoom, right? So what I tell them is, say, okay, if you really want to help, first thing you got to do is educate yourself. Let me give you a reading list here. And I give them a pretty long one, right? And I said, go read some of these books. Let's make sure that we're on a level playing field, and we have a common set of facts, and then let's have a conversation. A lot of them, I never hear from them again, right? Because they don't want to do the work. That's the key. People have to be committed to educating themselves, knowing the facts, doing the work, and they have to connect with Black people. They have to talk to Black people. But I don't want to have the conversation if you don't know the facts, right? So I think anyone who wants to supplement their child's, like I have a lot of non-Black people asking me, well, what do I tell my kids? Or how do I get in the fight? You have to be anti-racist. You have to educate yourself first and foremost. And it has to be a way of life. It can't just be a thing you do on the side. It has to be part of who you are. And a lot of people don't want to commit to that. And people who don't want to commit, I don't waste their time. I don't waste my time with them. I'm like, you're asking me a question that, you know the answer to. You don't want to do the work. So I'll just leave it there before I have a coronary.
And off of what Mr. Richardson said, I have to say that you just really hit the nail on the head with the ally versus the co-conspirator. And that is something that I do teach to my students, where an ally is like, yeah, I support you. But when it comes time to put their privilege on the line, they don't. Whereas the co-conspirator is like, I am all in. I see my privilege. You pointed it out to me. I now see it. I'm putting it on the line for you. And they do it every day. There is no option to not do it. So yes, but also when it comes to the reading, like something that is being read in New Haven right now is White Fragility. And I think it's cool that people are reading that. The issue is, though, that White Fragility is written by a white woman. And most times when white folks when they are talking or speaking about something that we as folks of color experience, they don't know it on their own. They know it because we've shared it with them. And so you reading a book by a white woman who's talking about the privilege that you have every day is a problem. Maybe you need to read about it from a person of color's point of view, because it's going to hit differently. You know, me telling you what I see and what I feel is very different than my colleague who is white. And so for people who have students and children and they want them to understand, I agree. It's reading those books. It's looking at those, watch television. There are so many things out there that you can watch. Eyes on the Prize. PBS is really good about how they present their things, you know, but be willing to do some research. And I think that's the biggest thing. Don't come to me and expect me to teach it to you, because it's the trauma. I am reliving the trauma of my life every day, and then to have to relive it with you when we're sitting down, it's a difficult thing to go through. Yeah, if you have one question or questions, I'm open. However, don't put that on the backs of Black people to explain to you what our lives look like, because you know what? You can turn on the TV and you see what our lives look like. So now it's your turn to do some work now.
I would just really quickly also say be comfortable being uncomfortable, in addition to what I co-sign everything Derrick and Manny said, but be comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't seek material that confirms your bias. Seek material that challenges your bias. Seek material that challenges what you've learned, because I think it's human nature for us to, gravitate towards what makes us comfortable, what makes us feel good. And so if you're reading something about racism or Black issues in America as a white person and it makes you feel good, you're probably reading the wrong thing. Look for things that make you feel uncomfortable and sit with that uncomfortableness and, dissect it and figure out what you can do to change it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody has so many great and powerful thoughts on here. And the one constant, the one word I keep hearing is oppression. And we know what it's about. And here I go back to putting my hand over my chest in school, pledge allegiance to the flag, the Star Spangled Banner. How's that working out? I mean, we found out now with more information, there's a few more verses to the Star Spangled Banner. That wasn't written for Black people, but yet, pre-internet, that's my era. We didn't have the resources or information to go educate our children on, Black history. And you look at it right now, let's put, I got a phrase I like to use, let's put it right on the table. The Black family is broken. And I took for granted that I used to go to Union City Little League baseball games, and I would get tired of my dad, Norman Johnson, showing up to every game. I would be embarrassed, but I would look around, and 70% of my other friends, for whatever reason, their father wasn't there, or they came from a broken home. So it's nice that we say, hey, read with your family, but we talk about how fictitious the war on drugs was and how it was targeted to put Black men in prison how black on black crime, we're losing black men. So to me, and it's been set up this way and it's going perfect, the black family is broken. So how can you got so many other issues to put food on the table? And I'm not saying every family is black family is struggling, because it's not the truth, but a majority of us are. And until we help thy neighbor, I don't care what color you are, and we talk about what's ailing the black community, how can we educate when you're trying to put food on the table, clothes on your back, and you see these kids coming to school and they don't have resources and they're holding in all this pain? Where's my next meal coming from? So again, I'm passionate about it. I don't have the answers, but that's why I'm here listening to all this toolage. And to the pastor, again, I'm going to get with you so I can get to that church that's in my city that I haven't stepped one foot in, so I can reach out to all the black, brown, whatever race that I can help, so we can fix what Miss Allen and Mr. Richardson are talking about, because it's deep, it's been set up this way, and I just don't see it ending anytime soon. And that's sad.
And I want to chime in, panel. The Bible teaches us we supposed to watch and pray. And I'm an advocate for praying. But we also got to watch, like Miss Johnson said, what's authentic and what's not. Because a lot of times I think with the black community and the black family, we're being pacified. We're just being given something that's not authentic, that's not the meat, that don't have the vitamins. I stepped on to James Logan High School in 1973. They didn't teach us about black history. We didn't know nothing about that. But I'm just going to say this, but they gave us a BSU, and normally a BSU was we just got together kicking it as black people. We wasn't talking about no history or none of that. It has to be in the curriculum. I'm sorry. It has to, that's just what it has to be. And we got to quit accepting the pacifier. A lot of times a baby cry, we give them that pacifier so she'll be quiet, huh? But really what she want that milk. Come on, somebody. So I just think a panel, and even to the community, because we're talking to the community, what's the next steps? Man, our vote, our voices. We have a say in our community, but do we exercise it? That's another, I'm getting off topic, but I'm trying to think of some answers. Man, look at how Georgia changed the country. Georgia, black folks, come on, somebody. So we got a say, we got a voice. And it just as it bothers me, just as it bothers you, Guru, Manny, this whole panel. But we got to come together to do something. Do something. And this starts with love. That's good. That's a good foundation. That's a strong foundation. That's what it's all about. Because that's our religion. That's our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, is love. But the Bible said faith without works. Come on. We got to get in there and do something. Come together. It just can't be Miss Allen fighting the fight all those years she did. Mr. Lindsay fighting the fight alone all those years that he's doing. It has to be the whole community. It's going to take every one of us on this panel. See? And not only just us, but those that are out in the community to come together. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Lauren. That was an amazing follow-up. Thank you, panel, which sets us up for our next question. And before I think we've addressed a little bit about education, but I want to switch to challenges and opportunities. So in the dialogue so far, we've discussed a number of challenges that create barriers to success for the African American community in Union City, in the region. I'd like to shift, or in recognition of those challenges, what are the opportunities for success for the African American community in our community, in Union City, in the Bay Area? Because there are the same tools that have been barriers can be reworked, can be dismantled to create some opportunities, can create some opportunities that can be used to launch the African American community powerfully. And so you can't, my granddaddy used to say, you can't shoot a target you can't see. So what are those opportunities for success within the African American community to help uplift the African American community, and indeed in all communities of color in the region and Union City? Pastor, would you like to start us off on this one?
Yes. I was really illuminated. I participated last summer when we had that the march here in Union City. I actually participated and walked from Kennedy Center to the City Hall steps here in Union City, and heard all the speeches. And I was taken back by how many African American business owners we have here in Union City. You know, I didn't know that. I did a little work with my mentoring program, dealing with the young African men and some ladies, and letting them know opportunities. I was part of the call-in program with the city of Union City, where they were giving young people who were troubled, jobs and different things. And so I think from my perspective, it would be nice if some type of job fair or something that can be implemented, put together to where working, like I said, it got to be everybody, because the school district manual is a very important part. The various churches, that's in the city, to where we can first identify and find out, the opportunities of jobs, availability, making money, working, because when I talk to a lot of young people, that's important, education, but then, they like to have some type of income, so if we can put some type of structure or something like that together, I think that would be a positive influence. I know a couple of African American have their own shops and various things on that end. So I think that would be a positive step that we can look into as far as getting implemented.
Thank you, Pastor. Manny, same question in terms of what are the opportunities that exist to create opportunities for success in the African American community. Your thoughts, particularly as an educator and as a parent.
Okay. I think the number one thing for us to have opportunities is we have to come together as a community, because even though we have a Black community in Union City, it's pretty small and we're so disjointed. It feels like we're not all on the same page. And so that causes so many just different ideas, and this is what I need, no, this is what I need. And I think, number one, if we come together as a community, the world would be ours. And then the next step is, I really feel like parents, Black parents, they need to be in the schools. They need to show their faces so that our schools know that Black parents are not the stereotype, that they do care about their kids' education, that they do want to be there for their kids. And also the mentoring. I know with my Black girls class, we had mentoring with Black women who they're in these jobs that you don't normally hear about Black people being in, even though Black people are in them. And the mentoring part is so important because it allows kids to see what they can become. Because if I don't see me in that job, then how do I attempt to become that? And so I think that's a really big thing. But for me, education, it's the education. And as long as we have kids being treated the way they're treated within our schools and kids feeling like they can't, I don't see how we're going to come to them understanding how important it is for them to continue on with their education. Because a lot of kids say, I don't want to go to college, but they don't understand why they don't want to go to college. And what they'll do is they'll compare college to high school. And it's like, well, high school wasn't good for me, so I'm not even going to try college. So I think that we have to come together as a community.
Thank you. Derrick, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think the two biggest opportunities are for the Black community here in Union City. One is economics, and two is just acknowledging what's really going on, right? So to kind of touch on the economic one first, in my opinion, the economic condition of Union City and the chronic financial challenges that we have, I think are directly connected to a decline in our Black population, right? We have this great Silicon Valley location, but we operate at a deficit, right? Due to a big problem with, we can't generate business tax revenue, and we continuously rely on these parcel taxes to fund basic city services. So we don't have the cash to pump into things like affordable housing, right? We have creeping gentrification that are driving Black families out of the city. Union City is it's not a destination, it's a pass-through. We play second fiddle to cities like Fremont and Hayward, right? Because they have a better economic engine. Our city council and our city manager really need to embrace some bold innovation and risk-taking in economic development to attract more business, create more opportunities, open up the playing field for everybody, especially Black people, right? Then when you think about the acknowledging that we have a problem, we need to acknowledge that racism exists in Union City. We do not confront this issue head on. We tout this racial and ethnic diversity, and we celebrate this statistic that we're about 80% people of color. The fact is, Ms. Allen said it, there's racial polarization and tension in this city. We don't seek to understand the root causes of that. We react to symptoms like racial groups erupting at Logan High School, right, and having fights. Someone scrawling racial epithets on a car. Someone hanging a White Lives Matter banner on the corner of Smith and Dyer, right? Those are symptoms of a bigger problem. Black people in this city are so easy to ignore. If you dig a little deeper and you look at the demography, Black people are about 13% of the US population, but we're like, what, 5% of the Union City population, right? Asians are about 5% of the Union City of the US population, but 55% of Union City. I don't have anything against Asians. I'm part Asian. But what do these numbers mean for Black people in Union City? What kind of racial diversity is being promoted from an economic and cultural perspective? Are Black people really welcome here? Let's keep it real. Is this a place where Black people want to live? Is this a place where Black people can afford to live? We need to get under the hood and understand this stuff. We tend to just push problems aside. We don't engage. We don't get uncomfortable. We got to get to the root of some of this stuff. So that's my thought. I think, economics and acknowledging that we have issues that we have to step into.
Hey, Derrick, I have a follow-up for you, actually, just because you've been the chair of the Human Relations Commission, where we really try to get under the hood, or we try to actually promote steps that can be taken to get under the hood. This is all very interesting, and I think we've known about the displacement for a while, and we have a lot of data on it, and we do a good job studying the data, but then it's just, how do you turn that into action? And what I'm hearing is, aside from the economics and the lack of mentorship, as Ms. Allen talked about, and maybe the lack of support for Black businesses that the pastor brought up, that the undertones or maybe overtones of racism in the community also being a huge factor in what not only causes members of our Black community to leave, but furthermore, not inviting more Black people into the community. So that's what I'm hearing. And my question for you, Derrick, is, what do you think the Human Relations Commission can do to prompt more conversation on this? Again, past Black History Month, because we want to move this beyond just this month and just this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's moving in the wrong direction. If you look at the U.S. Census data in 1990, Black people were about 8-9% of Union City. Right now we're 5%. Right, so we're Asians were like in the 30s in 1990. Now they're up to like 50. And I had nothing against Asians. It's just look at the trends. Black people are being driven out of this city, right? So the Human Relations Commission was a great experience, but it was also something that was extremely frustrating to me. I left that commission because I felt like it just wasn't being deployed in a way that was creating the kind of change that is needed in the community. That's why I left. And I left really abruptly because I was very upset, right? So this is a messy topic that requires courage. Union City needs to step into difficult problems on race and get away from the denialism, get away from the superficial, convenient, neat discussions. Everything is awesome. We have diversity. We got problems, okay? And based on my direct experience leading that Human Relations Commission, it operates in a reactionary mode. That commission should be, you think about how that commission formed. It formed in a period of crisis, right? And it formed to create a buffer between the citizenry and the city council, right? So maybe they got off to a good start, but it has no teeth. It gets no traction. That commission should be focused on digging deeper into the problems, to become proactive, understand and diagnose latent race problems in our city, right? That commission should be much more heavily engaged in helping councils set policy. They don't get involved in policy, right? They just, I don't know. I love Kashmir. I love the commission. I honestly don't know what they do. That's why I left. I was like, what are we doing here? And I'm really passionate about this because I stepped into it with high hopes, and then when I saw what it really was about, I just said, this is a waste of my time. So that commission needs an overhaul, and it needs a different focus, and it needs a different mandate. That's just my 2 cents as a guy who ran the commission for a few years.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Lauren. Thank you for that follow-up, Derrick. That was powerful. And again, like the pastor said, like we all said, we get to have some real talk. And one thing that is a hallmark of the conversation that we've had over the last hour and a half was that the conversation has definitely been real. And I would like to complete with Daryl and then with Amir in asking the challenges and opportunities question. So as we're focusing on what are the opportunities for success for the African American community, first, Daryl will take you, and then Amir, if you will bring us home in terms of what those are as you see them from your unique perspective.
I appreciate it. And also, too, I'd like to just thank Mr. Richardson, because, again, just to touch on what you talked about, that's what I'm looking out through my car window when I drive in my city, is what you just talked about that I didn't even know exist. And I know, again, Union City, no city is perfect. But, Mr. Richardson, I think it starts with you to have the ability to identify and basically be on the front line. You know, I would love to get with you again and everybody on this panel to help change. But if I'm correct, I believe there's only one Black business in Union City, and that's Tatum Janitorial. I could be wrong, but I don't have that magic wand to be able to say, okay, it should be 4 Black-owned businesses. It should be 5. It should be 10. But again, I talk to you through the prism of my viewpoint. When I'm on that ride and I'm spending money in my community in Union City, I don't see a lot of us. So I do know this from my friends, family, and experience, and the school and classmates. The word I think about is mentors. And there's nothing better in this life than an example, a person that's done something or has the ability to give back. So look at myself, for instance. I won a contest to get the job of my life. So I'm in the radio medium, a very powerful medium. And sometimes I didn't even understand the grasp of the medium that I deal with every day, and the people, the great people I'm able to come in contact with when it comes to broadcasting. So I thought to myself, why wouldn't I try to get with somebody like Miss Allen at my former high school in Union City? Forget me, but the great people that have done so much, that talk to these young and upcoming broadcasters that want to get into religion or whatever, finance, whatever venue. Why haven't I done that or tried to be the bridge to help? And it goes to every sector of life. I got some friends again from Logan, business, in sports, but it starts with, where do I start? Who can I get with to where we can try to start coming to Logan and speaking to the young kids or the community center? Because I will say this, and I'm not throwing stones. When I drive and take that drive in that car, I don't know where to go to see where Black people are represented in Union City. And, I'm waiting on that day. And somebody could say, you know what, it may not come, but I think that goes into the older generations of Black folks. If we're talking about improving the Black experience in Union City, it starts with the older generation, but also too, you need that, I don't want to call it that locale to where Black people know they can go just get a conversation, whatever they're dealing with, but also see the people that quote unquote are successful, and we can kind of get that bridge to where we can talk to the youngsters, and whatever their dreams are, they'll have examples to see that that's tangible.
Thank you, sir. Amir, please, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. First, I want to say, I'm new to Union City and I've been looking for that location. So if we don't have it yet, can we create it after we get off this panel? Can we talk about that? That'd be very
I think that's a great idea.
So I moved to Union City 4.5 years ago, and when my family moved here, we were very intentional about choosing a place, or we tried to be, because our children have been injured by racism in the past, and we wanted to avoid that. And so when we were planning to move to the Bay Area for the tech industry, we looked around and said, what's happening in the different cities around the Bay Area? Where can we move that will be a safe place for us, a safe place for our boys? And on paper, Union City looked pretty good. Now, when I got here, our experience was not as good as I had hoped for it to be. But I think that an opportunity is for Union City, an opportunity for the citizens here is that, it does seem to want to embody, those ideals that I saw when I was looking at Union City on paper. It seems to want to be a city that is a safe place for Black people. So I think in this moment, the opportunity is to find people who are willing to do the work. It seemed, the fact that I was invited to this panel for me is encouraging. That Union City leaders are willing to at least, have this conversation, because I don't, whatever they've seen of me, I've never been a person to sugarcoat things or to mince words. So the fact that I was invited here, I think speaks volumes. The fact that Derrick is able to share here in the way that he has, I think is an opportunity for us to stop, turn the corner from talking about it and being about it. So I hope, that the community is able to do that, like right now. Like now is a great time, like put some things into action, call on those people who are willing to do the work. Even, Manny, I know you're tired. I'm tired. Derrick, you're probably tired. The people who are in this space doing this kind of work, we're probably a little burnt out, but We'll keep working. So, be if Union City can like capitalize on that, I think it can be great.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. Well, I just want to say again, these have been some powerful, very real conversations. And I want to acknowledge the city leadership for even hosting this forum, for inviting you as truth tellers to really be candid, to really be transparent and share with them. I think it takes a certain type of courageous leadership to hear an uncomfortable truth. And as we are acknowledging both the challenges, I think one of the major opportunities is that you do have leadership who is listening, and they want to know what they don't know. And so I think that cannot be ignored, that cannot be minimized. And I think it's a critical part of what is the formula for success, that you have truth tellers on one end, who are powerful and passionate and who are willing to step in the space. And you also have leadership who is equally open to know and to learn what they don't know. So this has been a powerful exercise in civic engagement. And Amir, I agree with you and all of you panelists that your work gets to continue. And so I just want to acknowledge all of you as we move into the final question, because I can tell right now, we could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. And maybe, Lauren, maybe that will be, we'll do a series as we look at expanding these conversations beyond, Black History Month, but really looking at how do we promote more civic engagement among all communities of color in the Black community. This may be something that we may want to do. So
hey,
for yes.
Really quick, before we jump to our last question, since, we're talking about what more can the schools do, what more can the city do, how can we actually create action? One thing I wanted to hear just a couple comments on is vaccine equity, since, we'll exit here, turn on the news, and that's really the priority topic everywhere right now. And
great idea.
That is something that the vaccine distribution, although the city doesn't have at the local level, we don't have a ton of control over that, right? We kind of have to react to the county and the state and the federal government, but we do have control over sort of informing and educating our residents about the vaccine and where we can, improving access. So, just because this is, when we exit this panel, that'll be something myself and the city manager are going to be getting to work on, tomorrow and really the rest of the days here ahead. What can you give us some advice, and maybe I'll turn it over to Derrick and maybe Amir. I don't want to put you on the spot, but since you two are both in the medical fields, can you give us some advice on the vaccine equity topic, particularly in the Black community, our Black community? What is something we should be attentive to as it relates to building confidence in taking the vaccine and also increasing access? Can you speak to that? And then Jacques, we'll turn it over to the conclusion. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Absolutely. No, it's a team effort. We got this.
Amir, do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay, so this is right up my alley. I'm not a vaccine expert, but I actually develop drugs for a living, so I know what to look for. And I have a lot of thoughts on the vaccine. I'll try to be brief. So Black people have kind of taken the brunt of this on the front end and on the back end, right? Because a lot of different factors. Our infection rates are higher. We tend to have comorbidities. COVID tends to present like a cardiovascular and a respiratory disease. So Black people tend to have higher rates of diabetes, asthma, hypertension. So we're infected at greater rates. But now that vaccines are available, because of the institutional racism that I've been talking about for the last hour, we're getting vaccinated at rates that are lower than, other races, which is frustrating, right? So we have to get ahead of that. With regard to the vaccine, I'm not a MD. I can't tell people what to do. I can't tell you whether or not to get vaccinated, but I'll tell you what my standard is. It's very high. My bar for whether or not to take a vaccine was seeing published data in a reputable medical journal that I could read and understand. Pfizer and Moderna published their data in the New England Journal of Medicine, and I read both papers. These trials were excellent. These vaccines are safe. Both trials had a statistically significant sample. Both trials had excellent racial and gender diversity. Both of those trials had, I think, somewhere around 10 or so percent Black people, which mirrors about the demography in the United States. Effective, limited safety data, but based on what they showed, safe. So I'll just say that when those vaccines are available, my wife and I and my kids are going to take them. I think that that's our way out of this. Is we have to get vaccinated at a high enough rate. And I know there's a lot of fear in the Black community, and I'm well aware of all the challenges, with experimentation on Black people, Tuskegee, all that stuff. I just want to encourage everybody in the Black community to really seriously consider taking these vaccines, because from a scientific perspective, I can tell you without question, they are safe. I don't know how to give the city advice on how to actually help with equitable distribution, but I'll just say that it's a problem, and we need to get ahead of it. I don't know, tactically how we do that, but it absolutely is a problem. And I'm going on for a while here. Amir, I want to give you some floor time also on this topic, but those are just some of my thoughts.
Sure. I think the first thing is Black people don't trust the healthcare industry, and rightfully so. I work in the healthcare industry. I'm a scientist who works in medicine, and I don't trust the healthcare industry. And I've been a patient, and I don't trust the healthcare industry. So this goes beyond the Tuskegee experiments, which were going on while my father lived in Alabama. And it goes beyond experimentation on Black people without anesthesia. It goes beyond, the big atrocities. It goes into how the healthcare industry and many industries in the U.S. deprioritize Black people. We don't feel like we'll be prioritized, and because we haven't been. And so when you've already developed a vaccine is really not the time to talk about how do we get Black people to trust us. This is not something that the city or any vaccine distribution advocates are gonna really solve right now, because this is a really deep-seated issue that is going to take a lot of time and effort and intentional action to heal within the Black community. So first, I don't mean to be all Debbie Downer here, but I mean, this is a problem that, we need to work on, but there's no quick fix. I think if I was going to give a quick fix, I'm going to give a plug for Dr. Corbett, who Pastor Brown mentioned earlier in the broadcast. Dr. Corbett is a Black woman scientist at the NIH who played a very large role in developing the vaccine. And she has done some amazing public outreach to help people feel safe, and to explain in layman's terms how the vaccine works, why you should take it. So I would encourage anybody who doesn't feel safe taking the vaccine to look her up, Kizzmekia Corbett. She's on Twitter, she's on social media, she's done a ton of public appearances. And I have shared some of those some of those public appearances with family and friends who are not interested, who are not interested in trusting the healthcare industry right now, and it has helped change their minds. So look her up, Kismikia Corbett, NIH scientist. And myself, I'm a healthcare worker. I have received both doses of the vaccine already, and two of my immediate family members have as well, because they qualify as healthcare workers. And my youngest son, my 13-year-old, actually is interested in joining the trial for 12 to 17-year-olds, and I've talked with his dad about that, and we both feel comfortable that if he becomes eligible to be a part of the trial, then we would allow him to do that. So that's my personal comfort level. I've looked at the data the same way Derrick has, and that's where I am. So
Thank you, Amir. And Derrick.
Powerful. Wow. Yeah. Before we go to our closing question, I know I'm judging energy and vibrations, and Manny, I'm getting some from you, Pastor Daryl. You chime in a minute thought, feedback. I mean, I want to be cognizant of time and respectful of your time as well, and I don't want to quench your feedback opportunities. So if you have something that you'd like to share and offer in the space, we would love to hear it. Otherwise, we will just move on. But I did want to present that opportunity to you as well, because
thank you.
Because of everything.
Yeah, really quickly, I just wanted to thank both of you, because as a teacher, we are now getting our vaccines, and I signed up for it today, but I was having second thoughts, like, do I really want to go and do this? But hearing from you two has put my mind at ease. So right after this, I'm gonna go and get my first vaccine. So thank you. Thank you. And I will spread it on to my Black peers, because I have a lot of peers who are like, not doing it, don't trust it, but thank you.
And I like to follow up. I like to follow up also. I agree with Amir and what Derrick is saying. I was privileged to be in a conference call at the time. The Surgeon General, who's also a Black man, he was describing about the vaccine to about thousands of us faith-based pastors. We was on a conference call with him, and it was important. I was just like anyone else. I had second thoughts about it, but now once I got educated, education is very important. I would highly recommend when it's your turn to get the vaccine, to get the shot. So I'm convinced that it's safe, and I will be doing it. I'm trying to pull my status, but I got to wait for the fire department to see if I can go a little bit earlier, but I will be taking it. So I want to encourage all the African American community members. And then once again, like I teach as my church, seek the Lord in prayer, talk to your physician, then make your decision, because it is an individual decision. But from my viewpoint, I think it's safe, then it's needed.
And I'll just
Daryl,
say
any thoughts, sir?
And the rest, Miss Allen and the rest of the panel, if there's anybody in the community that has skepticism and they want to talk to somebody that understands the process and understands the data, I'm more than willing to spend time with people walking them through it.
I want to add too, I forgot to say something about what the city can do. I think something that I've seen as far as equity in the distribution of this vaccine is that people who have resources, financial, friends, if there's some nepotism going on, people who have some kind of connection are able to get the vaccine sometimes before they should be. And so who has connections, right? Not Black people. Black people, we're, in Union City are 5%, I think someone said 5%. We don't have those connections. So if you're looking at equity and how you can be more equitable about distributing the vaccine, removing some of that nepotism, removing the mechanisms for, people to get their friends in, people to buy their way in. That is going to improve equity for not just Black people, but Latino people. There's a huge problem with, distribution for Latino people, I think. I think that will go a long way. Just, make people follow the rules. Stop letting people skirt the rules.
Thank you, Amir. Daryl, did you have any thoughts or comments that you wanted to offer into the space?
I'm conflicted because we all know COVID is real, and we all want to live and get past this. My father just had his first shot, as well as my brother. But we talk about education, and I just there's so many parallels and contradictions to the Tuskegee experiment. But for the people watching and listening, when we're done and you have some downtime, you can Google the Tuskegee experiment, and see hundreds of years ago what the government did to Black men. And now here we are facing this pandemic, and obviously it's different from the standpoint that you're seeing other races take this vaccine. So obviously, it's safe. But, as a Black man, I'm still, conflicted on if I'm going to get the shot. And that all stems from something that happened to Black men hundreds of years ago. So, I just say that to say, obviously, we want to get past this. And how do we get past it? With everybody getting vaccinated. But I just find it on this call today, there are some parallels to the Tuskegee experiment that has been brought up by a few on the panel already. So that's all I wanted to mention.
Thank you, sir. And as we move into our final question, I just want to really acknowledge each and every one of you for your truth. And the truth may be uncomfortable. Pastor, we know the word says you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. You may not always like it, but it will certainly make you free. We also know there's another passage that says, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. And one of the themes of this conversation is greater education, greater awareness, greater understanding. So I want to acknowledge all of you, and I want to acknowledge the city leadership for facilitating a forum where we get to say and speak the uncomfortable truth. So thank you all. And now, as we move into our final question, each of you will have 2 minutes to opine on this. And this is the aspirational, we're moving into aspiration and action. If you knew you had one wish and you knew that that wish would come true, what would you wish for the city of Union City to create greater connection and inclusion among all its citizens, particularly its African American citizens? So you've got one wish, and you know that wish is going to come true. What do you wish for the city of Union City to create greater connection and inclusion for all its citizens, particularly or including its African American citizens? And we've been starting from various ends, and I think we'll start right at the middle with our educator, Miss Manny Allen. We'll start with you.
Oh, okay. If I had a wish, I think my wish would be that anti-Blackness didn't exist. Because the reason that's on my mind right now is because just in the meetings that I am in, being the quote unquote angry Black woman, because I am passionate about our community and I don't hold my tongue about what I feel and what I see. And I feel like if anti-Blackness, which doesn't just exist in the Black community, it exists in every community on this earth. If that didn't exist, I think our discussions could be deeper and less fearful, and we would get so much farther than we are, because I do feel like sometimes we meet to meet instead of meeting to make change. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just anti-Blackness no longer existed and we all could start getting to the root of issues.
Thank you. Pastor, your thoughts?
My wish that I would wish would be trust, and mainly trust with the law enforcement agency. I believe that truly is the bridge of connection between the African American community, Latin community, Asian, just Union City abroad. But I also like to say, with that trust, there has to be accountability. There has to be a true accountability, because without the accountability, there's going to be no trust. And that's where we stand now. There's no trust because there's no accountability. And once again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this panel. I pray that God, mercy, and grace will comfort and keep every citizen that's here in Union City. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Daryl, your thoughts. One wish. What would it be, sir?
My wish would be that center that I've been yearning for, name the African American Center of Union City, to where, people my age could go, youngsters could go and find the rich history of Black people, somebody to possibly give them a tour, or maybe if I come in and I have a certain agenda or some artifact I want to see, something throughout our Black culture, it would be represented in Union City. So, that would be my wish. And, I know that could be a pipe dream, but I think that goes a long way. My dad had a saying, I can show you better than I can tell you. And if you had a venue to where are we going? To the Black African American Museum of Union City. And you go in there and you come out educated. That would be my wish.
Thank you, sir. Derrick, and then Amir, you will close us out. Derrick, what's your
Thank you,
one
Jacques.
wish?
Thanks a lot. Let me just, before I say my wish, I just want to thank the city for inviting us to participate in this panel. I think this was really good and a great step forward, and I want to express my gratitude. I came into this discussion really wanting to speak my mind, speak truth to power, be brave, and not mince words. But I want to make it clear, I didn't come in here with an axe to grind or a grudge. I love Union City. I have a lot of choices about where I can live. And I chose Union City, and I continue to choose Union City because I believe in this city. I love it. I want to see it get better. And frustration comes from just deep care and wanting this place to be better. So let me just start with that. As far as a wish, my wish is that we just all acknowledge the problem, period. I wish that we would just all pull our heads out of the sand and face the race-related problems that our city has. Stop being so dismissive. Stop declaring that we don't have race issues in Union City. Stop engaging in the wishful thinking. This is not a horrible, place to live. This is not a war zone. This is a great city, but we have problems. So step into the messy problems. Get uncomfortable, commit to making change. That's my wish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Amir.
Well, Manny stole mine, so I had to come up with another one while everyone else was talking. Thank you for having me go last. And what I've come up with is that I wish that first, this wish has to be in conjunction with everyone else's wishes. So all 5 of our wishes get to come true. And mine would be that everyone drop their defenses, because so much progress is inhibited by people wanting to protect their way of life, people wanting to protect their own interests, people wanting to protect their own views of themselves. And so if people were not on the defensive, we could have real conversations and actually make real change if people weren't scared that change was going to negatively affect them.
Thank you. You know, there's a saying, I'm not here to be right, I'm here to get it right. And this courageous conversation, this 2-hour engagement of real talk really moved the needle and was such a gift for me. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for creating unlimited possibilities, not just for the city of Union City, but for the Bay Area region, for the state of California. And we know as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. So we get to be a model. This was such a tremendous gift. Thank you all. I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren. And Lauren and Joan, thank you so much for giving me this gift and allowing me to participate in this amazing conversation. It was riveting. So
thank you. Thank you for your, I don't think we could have not done this without you. And I'm going to let the city manager, I think she probably wants to say a few concluding words. But first of all, just want to note that when all of us started this conversation at the beginning of the month, and I know a lot of you very, very well and for many years now, and some of you I just really got to know over the last month, and I had no clue it would turn out to be as powerful as it was. So really thank you for all of your true and honest insights. We asked you to be candid, you brought it. So thank you for that. The other thing I just want to note is we did get some questions from the public. We were having such a good conversation, that we didn't want to necessarily disrupt the conversation. So what I'm thinking about is maybe if you guys are all open to it, I'll collect those questions from the public, maybe work with you guys to put together some sort of maybe written piece that we could then distribute back to the audience members, maybe in another week or two or somewhere around there. Again, trying to have the conversation past Black History Month. Maybe we could commit to stepping into March with more follow-up on this conversation. So I will go ahead and do that to those who have asked questions. I just wanted you to know that because we're not ignoring you. We have record of your questions because you typed them up in the chat, so no worries. But what I would say is if you are in the audience, even if you're on Facebook Live, go ahead and make sure you either private message if you're on Facebook Live or if you're on Blue Jeans to type in your email address in the chat so that we can be sure to then get you this follow-up conversation and your questions answered when we get around to doing that. So that's my thoughts on how we can kind of, I'm sure most people in our audience, could keep this conversation going, for another hour. So I know they're eager to get their questions answered. And so that's my thoughts on kind of following up there. And then I'll go ahead and let me turn it over to the city manager because her and I both listened intently. And I know she probably has some concluding thoughts.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I want to thank the panel very much for sharing what felt to me very much like an honest and sincere conversation. It's interesting how Zoom, and I see this small group on the screen, it felt very much like an intimate roundtable and a dinner time conversation that we might have. I appreciate very much the comments, and I have taken away some of these very personally and will be looking inward to see how I can be responsive on a personal level, because that seems very much what I heard repeatedly was the importance of education. So I once again want to thank you very much for your time this Saturday morning and look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Jacques. Thank you to the panelists. Thanks to everybody in the audience who joined us and really stuck around. We have kept everybody's attention, and that's really thanks to the panelists here. So we will be talking very soon about next steps. So each of you can bet that we will be calling you, emailing you, texting you with follow-up in the near future. So this doesn't end the conversation, and we look forward to whatever that future step is. So thank you, everybody.